Hi, welcome to Crime Clueless. We're your hosts. I'm Jenna.
I'm Lara.
I'm Krista.
And I'm Kayla.
We are back for part 2 of the Idaho Four Murders. If you haven't listened to part 1, go listen to that real quick and then come join us
As part 2.
Yep.
Yes, definitely don't miss all the details in part 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely want to know what happens, though. And I hope, well, we already said it's closed, but I want to find out how they catch this crazy person.
So, like I said last time, surveillance footage showed a white sedan driving through the neighborhood in the early hours around the time of the murders. We're going to jump in right there. Multiple cameras had caught glimpses of a white car, a Hyundai Elantra, passing through the area near 1122 King Road. Footage from a camera on a house down the street showed the white car drive by multiple times, starting at 3:29 a.m., almost as if it was circling the neighborhood. The video makes it seem like the car is unsure of the exact house location, but that is not true. The car drives by at 3:29 for the first time and then leaves at 3:32. And we'll post a link to somewhere that you can watch this. I made all the girls watch it with me before we started this episode.
Which I'm glad we did because it helps kind of make it so I can visualize things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At 3:38, it heads towards the house and then leaves at 3:40. At 3:46, a DoorDash driver drives by, and the DoorDash driver isn't exactly sure where the address is. We see the driver at 3:51 walking around up by where the camera is with a flashlight on, trying to find which house they're supposed to make the delivery. The white Elantra drives by again at 3:56 and leaves at 3:58.
And they drive by this time while the DoorDasher is still there walking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At 4 a.m. So yeah, the DoorDash driver got there at 3:51 and leaves, at 3:46 and leaves at 4. So that car did drive by while the driver was making their delivery. At 4 a.m., the DoorDash driver leaves. At 4:05, we see the Elantra drive towards the house. Then you can see it back up. It stops for about 30 seconds. It does a U-turn and goes back to the house at 4:07. In the video, you can hear a dog start barking at around 4:17. Muffled audio right around then picks up the sounds of voices, followed by a loud thud. This security camera that is picking all of this up and was thankfully handed over to police because it becomes crucial, is only about 50 feet away from the west wall of Xana's bedroom. At 4:20 a.m., the car is seen speeding away from the neighborhood and disappears. The timing aligns perfectly with the believed time of the murders. So between 4:07 and 4:20, 13 minutes to cause all of that destruction. The car immediately becomes a vehicle of interest. Police didn't release all of these details to the public right away, but internally they're zeroing in on this Elantra. On December 7th, about 3 weeks after the murders, the investigators put out a public notice. They were looking for a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. They said it had been in the area of the crime, and they asked for any tips about that specific car. The reason that they specified 2011 to 2013 is that it was their best guess based on the footage, which is a little bit grainy, and what they knew about the car's body style and the changes over time.
And it's a little bit hard to see the car because of the lights. They're really bright.
Right.
When you're watching it on the camera, when it's coming towards the camera, it's really bright. And when they're driving away, the taillights are really bright too.
Yeah.
And this car only had a license plate on the back, which is legal in the state that the car is registered to. And so I think they might have been able to see a license plate if there had been a front one. But like you said, those lights are so bright on the back,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you can't make it out.
Like when I first watched it, I thought when it was driving away that those lights were the headlights because they were so bright.
Mm-hmm.
I had thought that too. I'm like, is he backing up? What is going on there?
But then when it turns, you can see the headlights. So you know it's the back. But
They really are super bright, though. The police got a lot of leads from the announcement, and they were working on combing through records of 22,000 white Hyundai Elantras that hit the model years, essentially looking for a needle in a haystack.
Mm-hmm.
But unknown to the public, by late November, the FBI and police had already identified a potential match. A white 2015 Hyundai Elantra registered to a man named Bryan Kohberger.
So that was just about 2 weeks later, right? Or like a week or so?
Yeah, like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They found out this monster of a person was a 28-year-old PhD student at nearby Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, which is about 15 minutes away from Moscow. I was really wondering how you go from 22,000 to 1.
Yeah.
And what they did was they ran searches through local vehicle databases, including all of the people registered to Idaho State University, but also Washington State University, because the campuses are so close.
That was smart.
Mm-hmm. When they were doing this, they narrowed it down, to ones from students, and they started looking at pictures until they found one with bushy eyebrows.
Wow.
I was wondering too, were they able to see anything with the car on any traffic cameras around there?
They did eventually when they knew which car they were looking for.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's not known how many Idaho State University students or Washington State University students had the same car, but his was flagged as a strong lead pretty early on, just because of the overlap of his car, his location, and he was a PhD student with a criminology background. Yeah.
Was he just testing out his knowledge? What?
Possibly. Maybe. The really, truly frustrating thing is he's never said why. Why them? Why he did it? Nothing. So there's a lot more information now that we can get into. But at the end of the day, we don't have the whys.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
That should be mandatory.
I know.
If you're found guilty,
yeah,
you have to say why. Because we all want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Families want to know. Everybody does.
I don't want to have you be absolutely connected to this crime and just keep saying you didn't do it.
Yeah, agreed.
I want to know why.
Yeah, me too.
So, having found him interesting, fitting the height, the build, the eyebrows, the car, FBI agents started surveilling him and his car quietly. They observed that the car had been in Moscow the night of the murders from the footage. And then going through traffic cams, they were able to see that it went back to Pullman afterwards. Investigators were able to check his cell phone records after they got a warrant and found something interesting. His phone was turned off or put in airplane mode during the exact window of the murders. On the night of November 12th, his phone pinged in Pullman, where he lived, up until about 2:47 a.m., and then it went dark. It did not connect to any towers until 4:48 a.m., when it pinged on a highway south of Moscow, and then back in Pullman around 5 a.m. So no phone location during that time, which in itself is suspicious. If he'd been home sleeping, his phone would still periodically ping a nearby tower. Obviously, the gaps suggest that he purposely disabled his phone to avoid tracking while heading to Moscow.
Why would you? I don't understand why he would turn it back on so soon. If he knew to turn it off, why would you not turn off at your apartment and then
Back on there?
back on at your apartment so it looks like you never left?
Oh, my phone died.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot to plug it in.
Yeah, exactly.
I think curiosity got the better of him.
You wanted to see if anything had happened.
He had been listening to police scanners before this happened. I think he was going to try to blame it on somebody. There was an attempted break-in with a knife earlier in the night, and he had that whole police record saved on his computer. And I think curiosity made him turn it back on. sooner than he would have to start hearing if police were called.
Because if he did see Dylan, he might have thought that she would have called immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And probably the dog barking. He's like, it's going to wake up a neighbor.
Yeah.
So I got to get out of here. Even more damning, when they looked at historical data of his phone, they found that it had pinged near the King Road house at least a dozen times in the months prior to the murders.
Oh, wow.
So between August and November, most of these were late at night or early morning, which
gives me chills.
Terrifying.
Mm-hmm. So is that why they definitely think he was the stalker they were talking about?
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, it would be pretty wild to have him kind of stalking them and have a second stalker, but not impossible. But also something we're not entirely sure of. One of the pings was on August 21st, 2022, which was just the day before the fall semester at WSU began, which they think is the first time that he scoped out that house.
So he definitely, when he was driving around, knew where he was going. Seems like he was just waiting for the right moment to go in.
Exactly.
We kind of talked about, too, when we were watching the video, some of the other houses you can see still have lights on, and you can see some people walking around at one point.
Well, there's the DoorDash driver,
and then the DoorDash driver is there walking around. So he definitely could have just been circling until he felt like it was the right moment.
I think so, too, because we did see the basement lights go off in between one of his drive-bys and then when he eventually went in.
And he might have seen lights on at their house, too. So if he was waiting for them to go to sleep, too.
She might have turned the light off after she got her DoorDash and taking it into her bedroom.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
So depending on where their rooms were facing the road he was driving, if Maddie and Kaylee had their light on still, because they were still on their phones for a while. And then that turned off, and then the kitchen light was still on or something. Yeah. He might have been waiting for those
to go out.
Go out. Yeah.
Another interesting / awful ping is around 9:15 a.m. on November 13th. So just a few hours after the murder, his phone connected to a tower near the crime scene again. Investigators think that he might have driven by the house that morning, either out of morbid curiosity or to see if the police were responding yet. But I think him tracking the police scanners made him know they hadn't responded yet. And I think he just wanted to go see
what was going on. Wow. That's disturbing.
He also has a selfie on his phone from in between when he got back home and when he went back to Moscow of him like giving a gross thumbs up in the mirror with this creepy smile.
Oh,
like, I did it. It's so awful.
Oh, that is really creepy.
Yeah. So by mid-December, police really had quite the circumstantial case around this Kohberger guy. He had the car. He had really suspicious phone activity. He matched the general description. And he was a criminology student. He probably thought he knows how to get away with the crime. But they needed the smoking gun, the direct evidence placing him at the scene. And this is where the forensic DNA on the knife sheath comes back into play.
I love when they make mistakes, leave stuff behind.
And I think he probably knew right away that he left it, but couldn't go back.
Yeah.
So remember, the knife sheath was left on the bed next to Maddie. And I think he left that because he heard Santa say, "There's someone here." And so without that, I don't think he would have left it. And they might have been able to build the case anyways, but it seems like that is the only DNA evidence that they found.
Interesting.
I was thinking about that knife, though. If it has that specific grip on it, that's supposed to make it so
it doesn't slip.
It doesn't slip. Yeah, it's probably less likely that he would have cut him own self, like hand sliding down the handle or anything like that. But
there are reports, unconfirmed, from people that he TA'd with at Washington State University, that in the days following the murders, that he did have scratches on his arms and went full like long sleeve sweater, but you could still kind of see them.
So maybe just not anything deep enough to leave evidence behind. But
maybe.
I feel like it would still be under their fingernails, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the sheath was a better evidence option.
Yeah.
Maybe they did have both. I'm not sure. But so the Idaho State Crime Lab had recovered male DNA from the snap on the sheath. In late December, investigators decided to secretly obtain a DNA sample from either Kohberger or his family to see if it matched. They tried to get his garbage, but he was aware, I guess. I don't know if he was being followed or if he thought maybe they could have got his DNA from one of those places. His neighbors reported that he was putting his garbage in their bins.
Oh.
So
if he was a criminology major, he may have known that that's a common way for police to collect evidence. So he may have just been trying to be careful.
Yeah. In December, he had gone back home with his dad to Pennsylvania. And so the FBI coordinated with local police there. On December 27th, 2022, police in Pennsylvania collected trash from the garbage cans outside of his parents' house. Among the items, they found a piece of trash. It's reported that it was a discarded food wrapper that contained DNA from his dad. When the Idaho lab tested it, they found that the DNA from the trash was a familial match to the DNA on the knife sheath. Specifically, the lab concluded that the DNA on the sheath was extremely likely to belong to the son of the man who threw out the garbage. It was 99.9998% exclusion for anyone else.
Wow.
In other words, it was almost certainly Kohberger's DNA on the sheath, and that was the final evidence that they needed. It's worth noting how clever this was. They used the combination of genetic genealogy, old-fashioned trash picking. We've also got all the warrants for the phones. They were able to find the car. Initially, they had uploaded the unknown sheath DNA to a public genealogy database, and they had found some distant relatives, which pointed to his family. And that detail didn't come out for quite a while, but it did give them more evidence in the beginning to start focusing on him. And I think that's what helped them get the warrant for the phone. When building the DNA case, police also had Kohberger, like we said, under surveillance physically. They observed some odd behavior. He was seen meticulously cleaning his Elantra, quote, not missing an inch, while wearing surgical gloves. He also wore those same gloves to take his trash out at 4 a.m. and put it in his neighbor's bins rather than his own. Like he was trying to remove any trace evidence from the car or avoid police grabbing his garbage. These observations were later revealed, and they make it seem like he might have known or suspected that he was being watched.
Can I ask you a question really quick?
Mm-hmm.
So you said that it looked like maybe some of the attack had happened on the stairs. Was there blood on the stairs that they found?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant to ask that before.
No, you're good.
And I forgot. And then I've been thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
That was me with the knife. I was like, I've been thinking about this for a while.
Also was laid down like in the doorway. She's the only one who wasn't in bed.
Mm-hmm.
Even Ethan was in bed. He had been stabbed the least, but he was stabbed across under his clavicle, and it got his aorta and two other really
the veins right there.
Mm-hmm. And he also had cut his hamstrings, which is odd.
So he can't get up?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And he might not have known that the first one was that brutal, or he did that first and then the main one.
I wonder if he did that so he couldn't really move.
Yeah.
He
and
couldn't get up.
Mm-hmm.
A really awful detail is that he was bleeding right there, and it dripped down, and it could be seen outside of the house. And people right away said that it was blood, but it was finally confirmed really recently that it was blood that had dripped down through. I mean, it was a lot of blood.
That's sad.
By late December, investigators felt that they had enough evidence to move in, and they didn't want to risk him getting away or possibly hurting anyone else. They coordinated a multi-agency plan to arrest him while he was at his parents' home in Pennsylvania. In the early hours of December 30th, 2022, a SWAT team of Pennsylvania State Police and FBI agents descended on the family residence in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. They executed a dynamic entry, which is essentially a raid, to arrest him. It was around 3 a.m. when they broke down the door to take him into custody. He was awake in the kitchen, wearing shorts and a shirt, and wearing latex gloves, separating trash into Ziploc baggies.
That's not suspicious.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Not at all.
He's trying to hide his tracks.
Yep. Obsessively cleaning or trying to
keep his stuff.
He must not have known how DNA works.
Or he was planning on taking it back with him or something. Maybe he was taking out his specific trash.
He was. And personally, I think he was either going to take it to a landfill
and burn it.
Yeah.
Burn it. Yeah.
Yeah. Put it in like a
or
garbage
put it
can
in
behind
someone
a
else's garbage
supermarket.
can.
Yeah. Something.
I mean, he was putting his garbage in the neighbor's, so it would make sense that he was trying to do that again.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Or spread his DNA out around so people would get confused.
Maybe.
I don't know. This matches from this house, but it also matches from this house and this. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I doubt they would test everything like that, but you know.
He did not resist the arrest. In the house, police seized a number of items, including a knife, but it turned out not to be the murder weapon. They also found a pistol, black clothing and masks, and some ID cards inside a glove box. These ID cards reportedly belonged to someone from the University of Idaho, although the exact identity hasn't been officially confirmed publicly, but it did fuel speculation that he kept a souvenir from one of his victims.
I was wondering if he also took it from someone else and was using it to follow them around, possibly, to get into places on campus.
Oh, that's very possible. That's a great idea.
That's what I was kind of thinking too. If he was trying to be on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the student ID for that campus.
Yeah.
The police took swabs of his DNA to directly compare to the crime scene DNA. His arrest is kind of odd. When he was being interviewed at the beginning, he was trying to make small talk, chit chat. They asked him if he knew about what had happened, the murders, and he immediately requested a lawyer, which everyone should do, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
When the news broke later that day that an arrest had been made in the Idaho student murders, it was a huge development. Many were surprised to learn the suspect was a 28-year-old PhD student, not a local troublemaker, not an ex-con, but a criminology student who was studying just a short drive away. He had just finished his first semester at WSU, and he was working on a PhD in criminal justice and criminology. In hindsight, some who knew him gave anecdotes. He had been a teaching assistant, and some students described him as awkward and strict. He lived in student housing where neighbors said that he kept odd hours. But he had no criminal record apart from a couple minor traffic stops. To the public, he was essentially a nobody, which made it all the more chilling that he might have committed such a gruesome crime seemingly out of the blue. His background as it came out was fascinating to the media. He had a bachelor's and a master's in criminal justice from DeSales University in Pennsylvania, where one of his professors was a well-known forensic psychologist who had studied serial killers. She had even written the book on BTK, who was horrible and awful.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the one that did the floppy disk?
Yes, good memory.
I remember
Good
that.
job, Laura.
I like that. Kohberger had conducted a research study or survey asking ex-cons about their thoughts and feelings when committing crimes. He had posted on Reddit in various subreddits, including ex-cons, also prison, and a couple other places. The purpose said, this study seeks to understand the story behind your most recent criminal offense with a focus on your thoughts and feelings throughout your experience. This is part of a research project approved by the DeSales University IRB. His username on Reddit was criminal psychology _student, and he used SurveyMonkey and Qualtrics to have people go as his link.
Mm-hmm.
This survey really was approved for his thesis. And it was approved by like 3 different professors. It was posted in May 2022. So not that long before he started stalking the house. He had posted the email address of his supervising professor at DeSales. And when she was asked about this later, she said the purpose was academically appropriate and approved through the university's institutional review board, which is where you have to get your thesis approved before you can start working on it.
You talked about forensic psychology, and he did this survey. Did he commit this crime just to understand the psychology?
Maybe. Well, listen to these questions. Why did you choose your victims? How did you prepare for the crime? How did you select the location? Did you research the crime beforehand? And then questions about during the crime. What was the first move you made in order to accomplish your goal? Your goal, which I can't handle that wording. How did you enter the location? Did you struggle with or fight the victim? What was your highest and lowest emotional point during the crime? And then these ones. What were you thinking and feeling after committing the crime? What steps did you take to ensure you didn't get caught? Did you dispose of evidence? How? Have you committed other crimes that were never discovered? So some of the answers, like on victim selection, one said, because while you could do the survey and it would be completely anonymous, a lot of people had a problem with the survey and they were like, you're going to commit a crime.
Yeah.
That's why you're asking these questions.
Yeah.
But some people had responded in there. I'm not sure if they were able to get some of the other responses. If he maybe used them in his thesis, they would have.
Yeah.
For victim selection, one answer was, he owed me money and was talking behind my back. I'd been thinking about it for weeks before I did it. Another one said, I didn't know her personally, but she reminded me of someone who hurt me. On planning, and this is chilling, I drove by a few times at night to watch the pattern of who was home when, and I found no cameras outside the house.
Jeez.
I brought gloves and bleach wipes so I wouldn't leave fingerprints. Then during the crime, an answer was, once I got inside, I froze for a minute, but then I reminded myself of why I was there. Another said, I felt this weird calmness, like I wasn't even in my body. I didn't feel scared, just focused. On emotions, someone answered, the adrenaline hit was insane. I felt powerful. I felt nothing for the victim, though. Another one said, after it was over, I threw up. It didn't feel like I thought it would. And then on covering tracks, I wore gloves and burned my clothes later that night. Another answer, I ditched the weapon in a storm drain 2 towns over.
Wow.
It's so scary.
Mm-hmm.
There is crazy stuff on Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
There is. It's more crazy that he posted this survey that was literally approved for his master's thesis and then used that in his planning and prep and after his own crime.
It kind of feels like that he did all this research and he wanted to try it out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've been studying this for years. Let's see what it's actually like.
Let's see if I can get away with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
And gross.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
After his arrest, they did go to people that he had worked with. One professor that was at DeSales University and worked with him in his grad program, and she's the one that was over the Reddit survey. After his arrest, she said he seemed normal and was a very good student. He was always perfectly professional. She was shocked by his arrest and told investigators that there had been no indication of violent tendencies. And she also emphasized that the survey was not unusual for criminology programs and the ethical oversight process had been followed.
I do think if he wouldn't have gone on to commit these things, it probably would be seen as just trying to understand the psychology behind criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But yeah, that he then used it and did these things is chilling.
Yeah. Another professor in DeSales University, who I had mentioned before, was a leading expert on serial killers. She's best known for her work on Dennis Rader BTK killer, and she wrote his autobiography, which included a lot of interviews one-on-one with him. And
the BTK killer?
She declined to comment publicly on Kohberger, citing ethical reasons, but her connection sparked media frenzy with speculation that maybe he was inspired by the killers she studied. I don't know that that's true. I think it's more what we were just talking about. Several WSU faculty members said that he was quiet, intense, and extremely academic. They said he was eager to participate in discussions about forensics and criminal profiling, that he was sometimes socially awkward or overly strict as a TA. He reportedly clashed with some professors and students after the time of the murders. According to court filings, he was nearly terminated as a TA for behavioral issues, which included being rude to students and inconsistent with grading. After the murders, but before his arrest, he had stopped turning in assignments, he had disengaged from teaching duties, and professors noted that he seemed withdrawn. Like I mentioned, we don't know his motive even today. He's never said why he might have targeted these students. There's no clear personal connection between him and his victims. At first, and to still some investigators, appears to be a case of a stranger killing, which is terrifying and, really hard to solve.
Yeah.
With no clear link between him and them. Kaylee's family, in interviews after, have said that as soon as his name was announced, they went through her Instagram and Maddie's, and they found that he had followed both of them and had liked several of their photos. And then within a day, that profile was gone.
Oh, really?
And so they got some screenshots, but they weren't really able to go back, like investigators, and find any kind of connection. They couldn't find any DMs or anything on Instagram.
Did you say that he was at the house before school started?
A day. And they had rented the apartment earlier in the summer.
Okay.
As they were working. And
because I wonder if he just picked the house specifically and then
found out who lived
there and then picked them.
That's very possible too.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Creepy.
If he scouted out, he had asked, how did you find the location or whatever? Found one that didn't have cameras.
Yep.
Because in 2022, a lot of people do have, Ring doorbells or video cameras and things like that.
And I mean, there were surveillance in the area, but not on that specific house. So
and nothing was looking at that house, right? So,
and it had the sliding glass door in the back, and I don't know.
Maybe he did pick the house
and then pick the people after
and then
he watched them.
Saw that there were a lot of people coming in and out, that they left it unlocked.
Yep.
Yeah, it could have not been it has to be this house until seeing that over the next couple months too.
Maybe he had a couple houses he was looking at.
Oof. Yeah, maybe. That's awful.
Yeah.
After his arrest, he was extradited back to Idaho to face charges. On January 5th, 2023, he appeared in an Idaho courtroom for the first time, wearing the orange jumpsuit. He was quiet. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 for each victim, and 1 count of felony burglary for entering the house to commit the murders. At that initial hearing and through his attorney, he said very little beyond acknowledging his rights. His public defender at the time in Pennsylvania had told the media that he was eager to be exonerated and that he believed he would be proven innocent. He even made a comment through his lawyer that he was looking forward to being exonerated, which is a bold claim given the evidence against him. But at this point, the evidence wasn't public, most of it.
Did he know that they had his fingerprint?
His DNA?
Because there was a fingerprint on that sheath, right?
It wasn't a fingerprint. It was touch DNA from his finger.
Oh, I thought you said it was like a fingerprint.
No, just the DNA from that.
Oh,
okay.
I think I said his thumb. They thought it was his thumb from opening it, but it wasn't anything that they could put through the database to try to match fingerprints.
Okay.
So it's kind of a fingerprint. Yes.
But just more so the touch.
And not like a full fingerprint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So did he know that they had that? The touch DNA?
Yes.
Okay.
By the time he was in court, because he had lawyers and they were telling him the evidence against him.
Okay.
There was a probable cause affidavit that was released when he arrived in Idaho. And that's where a lot of the details came out for how investigators had built the case against him. It included the account about his car being cleaned. It included the phone pings, and it included the DNA on the sheath. The public and the victim's family finally learned many of the key facts of how police zeroed in on him. The transparency did sort of help quiet some of the earlier criticism that police were, quote, doing nothing, which is a bummer because they can't make everything public.
Yes.
You have to hope that they're doing everything they can.
Well, and they don't want to tip the murderer off, too.
Exactly.
You know?
He could have fled if they had.
Yep.
Over the next few months, the case proceeded through the legal steps. A grand jury indicted him in May 2023, and he was arraigned. Notably, at his arraignment, he chose to, quote, stand silent, meaning he did not enter a plea. So the judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. The case was scheduled for trial, and prosecutors announced that they would seek the death penalty, given the nature of the crime. For a while, it looked like we were heading towards a long, drawn-out trial where every awful, horrifying detail would be rehashed. There were numerous pretrial hearings, defense motions. His defense challenged, like we always say, the validity of the indictment and, of course, the DNA evidence. There was a gag order in place that prevented police and attorneys from talking about the case publicly, and they kept everything pretty tight-lipped. And then, in a surprise turn of events, he decided to plead guilty. On July 2nd, 2025, just weeks before the trial was set to begin, he accepted a plea deal and pleaded guilty to all charges.
Would that take death penalty off the table? Is
Yes.
that maybe why?
Yep,
Probably, yeah.
that was exactly it. If he pleaded guilty, they would do life in prison without possibility of parole, but not have the death penalty as an option.
Okay.
For the families, this meant no lengthy trial to sit through and no years of appeals. But it also meant that they probably would never hear why.
Yeah.
Since the trial could have potentially revealed a motive, and maybe that was part of it for him too, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He himself, like I said, has never given a motive, even at his plea change. He simply admitted guilt formally without explaining anything. The sentencing hearing was on July 23rd, 2025. It was an emotionally charged day in court. Family members of each of the victims had an opportunity to deliver victim impact statements, and they could address him directly. These statements were heart-wrenching and at times blistering. Kaylee's family were especially vocal. Kaylee's sister, Olivia, she's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
She looked him in the eye and said, "My sister Kaylee and her best friend Maddie were not yours to take. They were not yours to study, to stalk, or to silence. They're everything you could never be. Loved, accepted, vibrant, and free." She called him out as an insecure coward and made it clear that he didn't win. He didn't break their spirit. At one point, she even said if Kaylee had been awake and had a chance, she would have kicked your ass.
That was actually the only thing that I've watched from this. And
Mhm.
it is extremely powerful.
It is.
She was very brave to get up there and say everything she did.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't cry or anything. She's just like lays into
She
him.
said she practiced over and over and over
I'm sure.
to be able to say it while making eye contact the
Yeah.
entire time and not have to read something,
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
which gives me like full body chills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Mm-hmm.
Kaylee's father said, "Today you've lost control. You tried to plant fear in us and you failed. You left your DNA behind at the crime scene. Master's degree? You're a joke, a complete joke." He outright called him foolish and stupid for thinking he could outsmart everyone. He also said, "You're used to getting A's in college. Now you're going to be getting big D's in prison."
Oh, no.
Oof.
Honestly, I'd want to
Mhm.
say all those things if it was my chance to do stuff like that.
It's like the one chance you
Mhm.
have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially straight to his face, too. Like, he's not going to read it later. You're not writing in a letter
Mhm.
that he could just not look at.
Yep.
forced to listen.
His attorney had actually defended Xana's mom in a drug charge previously and hurried and got it wrapped up so she could go on to do this trial because of the publicity that would come from defending this absolute piece of garbage. But the connection there is interesting.
Yeah.
Maddie's grandmother described the crippling grief and anxiety their family had endured, and Xana's family talked about their loss and even offered a little bit of grace. They hoped that he would reflect on the pain that he had caused. Ethan's family emphasized how they will never get him back and all of the future moments that were stolen. After these statements, the judge addressed him and the court. He noted the senselessness of the crime and the devastation caused. He then formally sentenced Bryan Kohberger to 4 consecutive life terms in prison without the possibility of parole, 1 for each murder, plus an additional 10-year sentence for the burglary. And this means he'll complete 1 life sentence and then the next life sentence will start. So they're not concurrently, they're consecutive. He will never get out of prison.
Well, I never understood that because they say it's a life sentence.
It depends on the state of how long a life sentence is, which
Really?
is insane.
Yeah.
It's not your life.
Not
It's
always.
a certain amount of years for
guess I
some
don't-
states.
I know. I just assumed it was you'll be in
There
prison
till you
till
die.
No, I looked that up once because me and my husband were talking about it.
What is a life sentence in Idaho?
Oh, it's life is till you die.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought it was. I was like, wait.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not every state. Just some states have different amounts. of time.
Interesting. So do some of them do 60 years or something? So if you happen to live longer than that, then
Yeah. Well, and some are life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years or after 50 years.
right.
And so he doesn't have the possibility of parole either. But that's how a life sentence could become less, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one says in the United States, people serving a life sentence are eligible for parole after 25 years.
Mhm.
If they are serving 2 consecutive life sentences, it means they have to wait at least 50 years to be considered for parole.
Yeah, so I guess it is technically the rest of their life, but at that 25-year mark, you can
Possibly.
possibly get
If
out.
that's part of
Yeah,
your
if you
sentencing.
can qualify for parole.
Right.
Interesting.
After everything happened, the University of Idaho awarded honors and diplomas to the victims. And the house where the murders occurred was given to the university by the owner and has since been demolished. A scholarship fund was created in the victims' names. The families of the victims have also channeled their grief into advocacy in various ways. For example, Ethan's family started a foundation in his memory, and Kaylee's family became outspoken about victims' rights and even pushed for changes in Idaho law. The case also sparked discussions about safety and privacy in college towns, since this truly was the type of crime that nobody imagines happening in their own community. The Moscow police, who initially were doubted by some, ultimately earned praise for working tirelessly and collaborating to solve the case relatively quickly.
Did you say they ever found the murder weapon?
Nope.
No.
He probably ditched it in a storm drain 2 towns over.
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
I just saw there was a picture of it. So I was wondering if that was just a stock, a picture of what he bought.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It's just a stock photo of
What it looked like.
Yeah, the K-bar. The story of the Idaho Four Murders is one that has shaken a community and captivated the nation. It's a stark reminder that sometimes real-life nightmares do occur, even in the most unlikely places. 4 wonderful, beautiful young people lost their lives in a senseless act of violence, and their killer turned out not to be a spurned lover. It's not a serial killer with a known history, but really an unexpected figure, a graduate student studying the very criminal behavior he ended up exhibiting. And to this day, we still truly don't know why he did what he did. Was he motivated by a twisted fantasy? Did he fixate on perhaps one of the victims? Maybe Kaylee, since she had experienced stalking? Or was he driven by a desire to commit the, quote, perfect crime and get away with it? We may never know since he hasn't spoken about it. And now that he's pleaded guilty, he has little reason to ever reveal his motive. I'm sure the case will be studied for years by criminologists and psychologists trying to make sense of it. He's not making friends in prison.
Good. Sorry.
No, I like that.
Yeah, I saw that article when I was looking.
It is pretty sure that men who commit crimes against women are not treated very nicely when they get to prison.
Well, but
Or
he's
children.
complaining that they're taunting him
Oh,
Yeah.
because he is in his solitary.
Mhm.
And so they're yelling stuff like through the vents at him.
oh gosh.
He wasn't in solitary before, and his cellmate had said that he takes like an hour-long shower all the time. He washes his hands obsessively. He is up all night moving stuff around. And one time he was video chatting with his mom, and the prisoners or people in jail were watching some kind of sporting event. And they had yelled like, "That's so dumb," or "You're like yelling at the ref." And he had like stood up and his chair flew back and he was like, "Are you talking about me or my mom?" And got all mad and in their face. And they're like, "No, we don't care about you."
Yeah.
So yeah, not making friends.
I think I would try and not annoy my cellmate in prison.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Get beat up.
Yeah.
Seems like
He doesn't look like one who would fare well being beat up either.
no.
No, I don't think so.
But I feel like he might think of very highly of himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Oh, and he
then-
definitely thinks he's smarter than anyone else
Yeah,
in there.
exactly.
Yeah. As we wrap up this story, I do find myself struck by the bravery of Dylan and Bethany to have endured something that no one else should ever have to go through. Some people have been critical of not calling 911 sooner, but I feel like none of us can say how we'd react to waking up in that kind of situation, not knowing what's going on. You know, we talked about that quite a bit.
Well, and like we said, you don't know what their house situation was. We don't know what it was like
Exactly.
there. We
Yep.
can't criticize them for their decisions unless,
No,
you know,
We
we weren't there.
Mhm.
We
Yep.
didn't live in their shoes.
no.
There's no way we could understand.
No. I feel like this case is one that will stay with us for a while,
Yeah.
always. It's heartbreaking, it's scary, and it's also a testament to the dogged investigative work. We started with what seemed like an unsolvable mystery and no suspect and a community in terror, and we ended up with a conclusive answer. The killer was caught, confronted with the evidence, and thankfully will spend the rest of his life in prison.
Mhm.
So tonight, hug your loved ones a little tighter. And to everyone, stay safe and lock your doors. Just remember, sometimes the truth is more chilling than fiction. But I feel like knowing these stories can also remind us to look out for each other. What do you guys think?
It's definitely chilling. And those are the kind that
Mm-hmm.
that make me nervous. Like you said, make you kind of stay up at night. The ones
Mm-hmm.
with no connection, no reason.
Yeah,
It's just senseless.
so senseless.
What's interesting to me is he'd been studying criminology around people who have studied criminology, psychology their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all like, "Oh, yeah, we didn't see any warning signs." Like, that's scary to me because we always talk
Yes.
about, like, here are the signs of this, here are the signs of
Mhm.
that. And clearly there was something going on. And these people who are studying that didn't even catch it.
That he's around day in and day out.
Yes.
And they, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna
just
say-
Oh, go ahead, Laura.
I was going to say they may have mistaken his literal obsession with just his studying and his trying to do well in his degree
Yeah.
when it actually could have been an obsession with this type of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Oh, he's such a great student. He's working so hard. He's learning so much." When actually he's completely obsessed with all of this and how it works.
That's a good point.
I was just going to say, I bet all of them will kind of rethink how they look at things going forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, it's kind of like Dexter,
Mm-hmm.
where they identified that at an early age. His dad did, and then taught him how to channel it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got a job at the police force.
Mhm.
That's scary to me. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what this reminds me of, is that he was probably fascinated with this at a young age and realized, I need to study this so I don't get caught.
Yeah, that is probably very true. And if you can turn that into academic work,
Mm-hmm.
To a profession where you're finding these people, that's a better way to channel your energy.
Yeah. But that's also, I'm sure, a way to not get caught on to.
Yeah.
Well, because people would mistake your obsession with something as passion for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Use your superpowers for good, people.
Seriously.
Yes, please. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to our deep dive into the Idaho Four Murders. If you have comments, theories, feedback, or suggestions for other cases, you can send us an email, crimeclueless@gmail.com, or connect with us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and we're on all of those at Crime Clueless. If you want to check out the resources used for this episode, we will link it in our show notes, or you can go to our website, crimeclueless.com, under the contributors section, and you can link to all the cases that we've covered so far. Thank you again for listening. And remember, refuse to be clueless, careless, or caught off guard.
Not today, murders.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.